Goodbye. Una fuck.
Gai mà nhỏ lột trương. Gai mà nhỏ lột trương lột.
Jama kwe gai ruja du pu penje no ba kena dun lew. Yemu ko ba kena dolar piem bai elwe toy ke ben dolar adu. Tichin bang tundu ma dolar kidal. Kuran kin dolar tial juwen kin ma kwe pa ko kin dolar gen. Jama kwe gai ruja du pu penje no ba kena dun lew. Yemu ko ba kena dolar piem bai elwe toy ke ben dolar adu. Tichin bang tundu ma dolar kidal. Kuran kin dolar tial juwen kin ma kwe pa ko kin dolar gen. Jama kwe gai ruja du pu penje no ba kena dun lew. Yemu ko ba kena dolar piem bai elwe toy ke ben dolar adu. Tichin bang tundu ma dolar kidal. Kuran kin dolar tial juwen kin ma kwe pa ko kin dolar gen. Tichin bang tundu ma dolar kidal. Kuran kin dolar tial juwen kin ma kwe pa ko kin dolar gen. Tichin bang tundu ma dolar kidal. Kuran kin dolar tial juwen kin ma kwe pa ko kin dolar gen. Jadan yo mula yo kala yo me dong be magala pa. Majong awan kijama me jingama tialam. Nanu panda ku mau ko. Agura betong abado betul betul dong tialam wa. Baka tialam me tulna na udia. Kamu ya bati kuto. Uga taguni. Keluar ni kunya ku kejiran kamlon. Bukan bot kilek isen media. Kirana banai. Anggur tu yang tialam mana koi. Kamuan mi ai jogan wel toy kali bai. Wala berjam di jogan opal jokular bai. Wala purang. Jadan yang muda yang kala yang bedong penyi magalapar. Majong awan kijama majing kemana tialam. Narapanda kumai utong. Akur betong abang dong betul betul dong tialam wang. Baka tialam tuina na udia. Uwe kamu ya pagi kurto. Uga taguni. Keluar ni kunya ku kejiran kamlon. Bukan bot kilek isen media. Kirana banai. Anggur tu yang tialam mana koi. Kawan biaya jogan wel toy kali bai. Kula berjam di jogan opal jokular.
All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Leg State Media. My name is Abraham Adinmajak. I'm one of the hosts of today. Let me welcome my guests this evening in Nairobi, and this morning in Northern America, and this night in Australia. Let me welcome my brother Wani Michael to Leg State Media again. It's been a long time, and thank you for coming in. And we will discuss about our issues in South Sudan and the peace in Nairobi. This is the thing that we will discuss. And for those of you who are watching in Clubhouse, listening in Clubhouse, also YouTube and Facebook, start share this this show. This will be a very productive show. And also, before I give the chance to Michael Wani to open his statement, I would like each one of you later on, if you have a question for Michael, you will write your question on the comment section. I will bring you up. I will bring on the screen. And also for those of you in Clubhouse, I will bring you up. Raise your hand and you have a question. Other than that, let me welcome again Brother Wani Michael to Leg State Media. I will give this chance to you to introduce yourself. Who is Wani Michael, and the young politician? Welcome to Leg State Media. Further, have a floor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, my brother. I really appreciate you have elevated me today to be a young politician. I look forward to that in the near future. My name is Wani Michael. I'm a member of the People's Coalition for Civil Action, PCCA. which is participating in the Nairobi Tumaini Initiative Peace Talks as one of the stakeholders in the process. First of all, we would like to sincerely thank the President, His Excellency Salva Kiir Mayardit, for initiating the Nairobi talks, and also want to sincerely thank the Kenyan President, His Excellency William Ruto, for accepting to negotiate between the Artigono and the Whole Out groups. And I think dialogue, it's a very important tool, it's a very important process that we want our people to be able to talk to each other, to be able to dialogue. So I will want to begin by appreciating them. First, for President Kiir, for initiating the process, and again for the Kenyan government led by President William Ruto for accepting to host the talks. Also, on the same note, I want to appreciate the mediation led by a veteran mediator in the region who is well known to many South Sudanese, General Lazarus Zimbeo, and deputized by an able diplomat, Ambassador Guyo, and an able secretariat who has been doing very amazing and great work to be able to keep the parties and the government and the stakeholders together, and also to ensure that the process is inclusive in its nature. So yes, the talks are proceeding on well, and I joined later in early May, I think the second week, and I've been here, and I've seen tremendous changes. I've seen the talks progressing on well. Of course, these are political processes. There must be challenges here and there, but I just want to say that the talks are proceeding very, very well, and we hope that something, a white smoke, will be able to come out in the few days to come. I may not know how, when this will happen, but we are hopeful that at the end of the day, people will be able to agree and sign an agreement. Then they will be taken back to our people in South Sudan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Wani Michael. Can you tell us about what is going on right now in the peace talks in the beginning?
What happened? Remember, these talks started from Rome between the Artigono and the Whole Out group, the group that did not sign the 2018 revitalized agreement, and the talks were then shifted to Nairobi. And in the Rome, they already had an agreed agenda on how the talks were supposed to proceed. So there are about 4 agenda items that the parties agreed on, what they call the Declaration of Principles, or DOP. In those, there was that the talks will center on governance, the talks will center on economy, justice, security, and then after the presentation of the parties and stakeholders on these 4 issues, the mediator studied why it is important to add the fifth one, which is the constitution making process. So apparently there are about 5 thematic areas that the parties have been working on. So what has been happening is that they asked the parties and stakeholders to present their position papers on the 5 thematic areas, which parties did make presentation to those 5 thematic areas. And then it was consolidated to a report, and all the ideas of the people, of the stakeholders and the parties, was consolidated into a report, and the report was again presented to the parties and the stakeholders, and the stakeholders, they were able to put their inputs into the report to see whether the things that they mentioned are missing. And what the mediation then did was to merge issues or points that that are speaking to each other, whether from the stakeholders or from the parties, and that was done, and then the parties then embarked on uh, on talking to each other. Remember, the aspect of confidence and trust building is very important in this kind of process. So what happened was that the mediators, through the request of the stakeholders, led by the faith-based leaders, were able to have a South Sudanese intra-dialogue, which was basically just as the South Sudanese talking to each other. I think we spent 5 days building trust and confidence among ourselves, and that, I think, there was agreed principles to that effect in terms of trust and confidence building, and then the parties embarked on negotiations between themselves, and again, of course, engaging the mediators and stakeholders. So what is basically happening now is the real negotiations. People are negotiating and talking among themselves, agreeing on certain principles, agreeing on certain issues, and we hope that the process will be a little bit faster, so that people can be able to agree as soon as possible. But we're also mindful that you don't need to rush any peace process, so people need to be able to talk to each other in a very in a very conducive environment, and I can guarantee you that some of the discussions have been between the South Sudanese themselves and talking to each other and agreeing. So I think the mediation is employing different strategies on how they need to move this process forward, but most importantly, making it inclusive, that everybody has to be able to participate. And as stakeholders, we're able to present some of the issues that we feel very strongly on as stakeholders, and we did present those positions to the mediation today, and we hope that they will be incorporated into the final document that will come out, and we'll be able to also to explain some of the issues and some of the ideas that we have to the two warring parties.
Thank you, Wani. And also, can you tell us about the position of PCCA? What are you guys doing to what role are you guys are playing right now in this talk? And also, to yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think as PCCA, we first of all, we are a non-violent democratic democracy non-violent movement. We are not carrying any arms, and we don't intend to do that. We believe that you can cause a fundamental change through a non-violent means. So we are in these talks as a stakeholder, because we are a non-violent violent group. We are not at the moment as a political entity, or we are a civil right movement. Of course, although we have politicians amidst us, but most of these politicians are civil rights activists or civil rights defenders. So we are in this process basically to be able to amplify the voices of the people. As PCCA, we don't bring new position on the table. We have been able to amplify and ensure that the resolutions of the national dialogue are implemented in this process. But most importantly, as PCCA, what we believe that will be an outcome of this process is when we don't sign a power sharing agreement, which has been the case with the revitalized agreement and the previous agreement. We would like that the Tumaine initiative should culminate into what we call a constitutional agreement. A constitutional agreement means an agreement that speaks to us writing a new constitution for South Sudan. So instead of people focusing on how the powers to share, for us, we believe that the conversations should center around the constitution making process, and us having a constitutional agreement that speaks to that particular process. And that's what we think is unique between this process and the RRCs. Although we are mindful and recognize that Chapter 6 of the Revitalize Agreement speaks about the permanent constitution making process, but we also have very strong recommendation in terms of how we feel that the constitution making process needs to be reshaped, need to be restructured, so that you are able to deliver a people's own and people's led constitution. So one of the things that PCCA stand for is a constitutional agreement. On governance issues, PCCA, we stand with the recommendation of the national dialogue, which demand that you need to implement federalism immediately. We believe that the conversation around federalism, you need to start implementing some of the key components of federalism, which has been discussed in the national dialogue. And also, we believe that the interim government that is going to come out of this main agreement should be a very lean government, and that government must be also inclusive and must appreciate technocratic government. We need a technocratic government. When we talk about technocratic government, we are not saying you get technocrats outside the parties. We are saying these parties, most of them have technocrats. For example, Minister of Health, you cannot appoint somebody who doesn't have any medical or any health related knowledge to be able to head the Ministry of Health, and also in respect to other ministries. So we believe that these parties have the expertise, they have the experts. So we wanted a lean government. And why we are advocating for a lean government is because our economy is doing terribly bad, and the economy cannot manage a bloated government, because you hear a conversation around expansion of the government, and we believe that expansion of the government will cripple already the crippled economy, and that you will not be able uh, to deliver the services that our people need. Remember, up to now, the civil servants are not paid their salaries for about 9 months now. So uh, if you add more people to the current government, you're adding more problems to already existing problems. So we vehemently advocate for a lean government, because we believe that the lean government can be able to deliver services, and be able to ensure that the agreement is implemented and you have a low cost. But also, it is important to recognize that the issue is not even about salaries alone, but also of operational costs, and it's something that we don't pay attention to, because if you have a very huge government, you have to run it, and we need a lot of money to do operations, no, to carry on the activities of the government. So we believe that a lean government that can be able to be given very specific time to be able to do work and deliver us, and those who want to get the money to people, prepare us for elections. Again, also on governance, we believe that this process, the end product is elections. And we believe that for you to achieve that, you need to be able to consider the 10 points program that were worked on by the United Nations, the African Union, I think with IGAD, when they came up with the 10 points benchmark that the government need to do to be able or to get the country ready for elections. So we believe that every activity that the next government need to do is towards, it must be geared towards election. That means the activities of the next interim government must be very, 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 very minimal. You need to have a very few activities that are given to the mandate of the government to be able to do. And for us, we believe that mandate, although the activities must be those that facilitate peace, facilitate security sector reform, constitutional making process, and another important fundamental components that can lead us into elections, including reforms around the National Election Commission. again, also on governance, we believe that certain structures, of course, you need to reform, starting from the presidency, going down, because I said we advocate for a lean government as a fundamental principle that we will follow. And then we'll be able to work on the numbers in terms of what really need to be done. And then we associate ourselves mostly with what has been said in national dialogue. On the economy, our position has been that you need to create what we call escrow account, or a single account where all the revenues of the government are deposited in that account, because we realize that the government has so many accounts, and there have been a lot of issues associated with corruption in terms of them creating a lot of accounts. So we believe that you need to create a nostro account, or escrow account, that you deposit the money for the implementation of the agreement. But also, most importantly, we really focusing so much to ensure that the agreement is implemented in letter and in spirit. And that's why in this process, we have been very serious with the aspect of implementation. How do we strengthen the implementation mechanism? What are the proposals that we needed to present forward? For example, we are proposing that there must be enforcement mechanisms, and there must be very serious follow-up and engagement from the grantors. We believe that one of the things that we do not do with the RRs is that we do not provide for an active role or participation of the mediating team or the mediating country. So we believe that you need to create a very fundamental role of the mediators to participate in the implementation of the agreement. And in this, we are making reference to the Republic of Kenya. We believe that they need to be able to play a fundamental role, and other countries that need to act as grantors. And then, of course, we have other proposals on the economy in terms of how to jumpstart the economy, because you might recall that the economy is really doing badly. So there is need to do a real fundamental, robust, and radical reforms within the economic and financial sector, so that our people will be able to buy food or have food on the table. But this requires a very serious, honest, and frank conversation. On justice, we have a proposal in terms of reform within the judiciary. Remember, some of the judiciary is one of the most important arm of government, and we believe that if you go for election without reforming the courts, it will be difficult for people to trust the courts. And this brings us to the question of election dispute resolution mechanism. So we are also proposing that you need to have reforms within the judiciary, which means you need to reconstitute the courts all over South Sudan. You need to establish the constitutional court that will be able to assist you with constitutional interpretation. That will also assist you in the interpretation of the constitution and the agreement. Also deal with some electoral dispute, but the jurisdiction of that court can be discussed and passed or agreed by parliament. We also believe that there is aspect of recruitment of judges and justices of the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal and the Constitutional Court. We believe that the process needs to be a very competitive process, with the participation of Parliament and public participation in the recruitment of judges and justices to create the aspect of independence. And then, of course, we also recommend there must be adequate funding to the judiciary. Also, on the judiciary, we also have.
Sorry, guys, bear with me. His network off, so he will be back. Let's see. His network is cut off there. Let me see. He will be back, so his network will just break up. And for those of you who are watching, please, I will not bring anybody up in the studio. So if you have a question, just write your question on the comment section, and then I will read your question. I pull it up, and then Wani Michael will answer it for you. So I will not bring anybody in the studio, but for those of the rest of you are in Clubhouse, later on, if you have a question, raise your hand. I will bring you up. This is the way I will do it. I see some of the people comment here that I won't bring you in the studio, so I cannot do that. So just write your question and then send it to, and then I will bring, if it is a question that relevant to the discussion of this topic, and then I will pull it up on the screen, and then Michael Wani will answer it. So while I'm waiting for Michael to come back, he's here he comes. So let me play. Yeah. All right, welcome back. Wani.
Thank you. Sorry, somebody was calling me, so I have put my phone
Yeah.
on. Okay, we can go back.
Yeah, go back where you left off. So while you proceed ahead, Wani, you mentioned a lot what PCCA and the others want to see in this peace agreement, peace talk in Nairobi. The civil society, church leaders, and Soma that are there, and other political or rebels group that are there in the talk right now. Are you guys ready to parliament these demand that you are talking about? Will the government agree to those demands you guys you just mentioned? Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. During the confidence and trust building activity that we did, or the discussions around trust and confidence building, there was a proposal that we go to Juba, a one-day visit to Juba, which of course is still under discussion. But obviously, there is no need for us for us to be out of the country. So of course, after agreement is signed, remember, some of us have treason charges on our heads. So there is a discussion around amnesty, that the president will issue amnesty to to all the armed opposition groups, and of course, the government will withdraw the cases against the five of us, because Governor Kwela Guerquel was acquitted by court. So we will be demanding that the remaining five of us case be dropped, so that we'll be able to come back home. So the question of us coming back home is going to be, of course, voluntary. You can't force somebody to go back. But of course, if there is an agreement signed and people have agreed, there is no need for people to be outside the country. So people will be going back to be able to implement the agreement that they have agreed on.
Okay, thank you. So that means that you guys will, if the peace agreement if you guys reach a peace agreement with the government, maybe in a couple of weeks or next week or whatever time that you guys will reach a peace agreement. So are you ready to go back to Juba?
Absolutely. I miss Juba.
Yeah.
I miss Juba. I'll be ready to go back to Juba. But I also want to go back to Juba when we have signed a very a very serious agreement. We don't need to go to Juba when we have a power sharing agreement, or we have an agreement that doesn't address some of the fundamental issues that affect our people. So we're basically saying that once we have discussed the issues, we have agreed on those issues, we will of course come back to Juba, so that we're able to implement the agreement.
Okay, thank you. And also, let me recognize your colleague, Rajam Handis. He's with us, listening with you. Rajam Handis, he joined me in the clubhouse. So, Rajab, if you want to weigh in, let me know. I will bring you up. So, this show is for you guys, PCCA. Wani, there is some of the article that I came through yesterday. And this article said that the civil society leaders are accusing, and they're saying that the Soma faction, led by Jorot Paganamom and Paul Malongawan, are favor 3 to 5 years extension. And also this 3 to 5 year extension, they demand that they will reduce the size of parliamentarian. Okay. Is this accusation, is it true that the Soma of Jerome Malong and General Pagana Mom, are they favor 3 to 5 years extension government?
Yeah, unfortunately I don't speak for Soma, and I
Okay.
don't speak for real SPLM and SUP, which is the party of General Paul Malonga one. But I know that the opposition parties, are negotiating as a bloc. They're negotiating with the government. To that effect, I am not aware of any agreement in terms of the tenure or the time period of the interim period. But of course, these are negotiating parties, so they can be able to propose any time that they wish, that the interim period. However, for us, we believe that the tenure or the time period can only be determined based on the activities that you want the government to be able to do. The activities of the government will determine how much time they need for them to be able to implement those activities that will be agreed through the Tumaine initiative. So you could say any number, but for us, we believe that first discuss those principles and discuss those activities. Then thereafter, you can be able to allocate the time frame needed, and then you can be able to ascertain the time that people need to be able to work on those issues and lead us into elections.
Thank you, Wani. You know, on the 19th, 2 days ago, uh, the first Vice President, Dr. Riek Machar, he written a letter, and this letter is trending in social media, and South Sudanese are talking about it. Dr. Riek, he wrote a letter to the mediation team in Nairobi. He having some concern, like 7 of them. I will not read out. I think you have a copy of that letter. He lined up the 7 is concerned. And also, according to him, he's saying that, I'm quoting him, he's saying that the peace talk in Nairobi is undermined the RCs. So what is your response and your analysis of Dr. Riak concern about the peace talk in Nairobi?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, Dr. Yak has a absolute right to write to the mediator or write to the parties, or engage the parties and engage the mediators, because his party or the SPLMIO is a key principle or key party to the RRCs. So I want to underline that he can be able to engage. In fact, we had requested that we needed Dr. Yak Machar to visit us here in Nairobi, so we were able to engage with him in Nairobi here and understand some of the context, that we do have here in Nairobi, and also understand from his own perspective. But I also feel that there are very important things to consider. The first thing is that the negotiating parties in these talks are the RT Gono, and the opposition parties and the stakeholders. So there is no IO negotiating as a party in the Tumaine initiative. So I will have loved to see Dr. Riak raise these concerns with the other principles, which included the president, because they are negotiating here as a bloc, as Artigono. And in the delegation of Artigono, you have the SPLM, famously known as SPLM IG. You have the SPLM IO, you have SOA, you have OPP, So all the parties in the RRCs are represented here in Nairobi, and Dr. Yak has three. There were three representatives of the SPMIO who are part of the Artigono. Although one is in the hospital, is hospitalized, but I do see two of them who are senior leaders of the SPLMIO. So I will think or believe that he could have raised this issue that he's raising now through his team that is here with us in Nairobi, or through the Artigono channel, because I am here wondering then how do you consider his opinion, because he is not a party to the talks. He's only a party to the talks through Artigono. So I really do not, although I say I recognize his concern, but to me it could have been best fit if he raised his concerns with the Artigono, and maybe also his letter is an indication that things are not going well in the Artigono house. There seems to be, to me, there seems to be division within the Artigono, because if Dr. Riak has his people here, part of the Artigono delegation, and he's writing, he and is raising these concerns. And by the way, some of these concerns are not are not legitimate. I have been in this process, and I have been following conversations throughout. For example, the accusation that the Tumene initiative is going to completely dismantle the agreement. No, it's not true. The Tumene initiative, what we are doing basically is that we are not throwing away the agreement, but we are also saying that you have failed to implement the agreement for over 6 years. You have only spent 15%. I think you have implemented only 15% of the whole agreement. So how much time do you need to implement the whole agreement? So we are saying one way or the other, you have to unpack the agreement to see how it can be implemented and be able to narrow it down to look at very key activities that can lead us into elections. Because this narrative of us saying the agreement must be implemented as a whole, all the activities, it's not going to be possible, because up to now they have implemented only about 15% of all the activities of the agreement. So we are not deviating away from the RRCs. We are just basically strengthening it and ensuring that some of the key activities of the agreement, and also make proposals, because the agreement is not a Bible where it cannot be amended. No, they have even amended, and for us, we are also saying, okay, if you say the agreements will not be touched and the agreements will remain the way it is, this agreement is ending on the 20th of February 2025. So we said, okay, let it reach to that time, and then the agreement comes to an end, and then we start a new interim period, as opposed to the one that they have, apparently. So the argument that we are moving away from the agreement, of course, there are issues that we feel very strongly that they needed to be rediscussed in the agreement because they are not working, and indeed they are not working. And there are also very important components of the agreement that we needed to be carried forward. So for us, we strongly believe that there are a lot of lacunas in the agreement. There are also there are some contradictions in the agreement that needed some sort of clarification. So we are here basically to ensure that we unpack the agreement, something that is implementable, and the underlining word here is implementable. We don't need something that we will fail to implement it, because whatsoever everybody is asking is that how are you going to implement this agreement? That's why we are saying you need to put institutions, very independent institutions, to be able to implement some of these key activities.
Thank you, Wani Michael. The government official, they are saying that, I'm quoting them, they are saying that, and they are quoting the Bible verses. They are saying there are many rooms in my father's house. So, in other words, the government said there is a room in the government. You guys will be accommodated if you guys return to Juba. So, you guys are member of PCCA. What position will, in this agreement, when the agreement will be reached, what position will PCCA will have in the government?
We have made it very clear publicly in many media platform, that as PCCA we have no political advancement. We are not seeking for any political office in this process. That is why uh, we are not in the opposition, neither are we in the government. We are in the stakeholders, because we believe that the issues that affect our people need to be first addressed than seeking for political office. So I want to underline and inform our people that as PCCA, we are not in this process to seek for any political office, and we have made this very, very clear to the parties and to the mediators. For us, we are here to ensure that it's a fundamental change. We are here to ensure that we have an agreement which is implementable. We don't need an agreement that we will be able to fail to implement. Because we also believe that as much as we are not going to participate in the government structure in the next interim period, but we also believe that we have a say in how that structure of government should be, because we believe that our people have suffered a lot, and our people will not appreciate a blatant government. That's why we are saying, as PCCA, you must have a lean government, a government that will be able to respond to the needs of the people, and a government that will be able to prepare us for elections, a government that will be able to work for the people and prepare our people for elections. So that if those who want to participate in politics, you wait for elections. But for you to have an election, there are very key milestones that needed to be achieved first. And for us, we believe, for example, you must have a constitution that addresses the aspiration of the people of South Sudan, that also addresses the needs and the desires of our people. You need to also be able to ensure that there is security sector reform, and we have very good proposal in how to reform our security. For example, we believe that there is need to restructure the National Security Service, and ensure that it does not become a combat force. The national security needs to be a national intelligence service. That means their role, which is defined under Article 159 and 160 of the Constitution, which is basically an intelligence agency, as opposed to right now the way they are. They are a very full combat. So we say they need to go back to the respective, or they go back to the SSPDF, or they go to other organized forces. So we have very, 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 very robust and very, very comprehensive proposal in terms of how we are going to reform our security sector. Also, we are proposing that you need to establish an independent hybrid security sector reform commission, which will then work on how to review and propose reforms within the military and other security sector, or other security organs, how they can be reformed. So we are here basically to re-emphasize, as I said earlier, what our people said in the national dialogue. So as PCCA, we are not coming with new ideas. All our ideas, and we have informed the people on this process that our ideas are not our ideas. These are our ideas of the people who spoke in the grassroots, the people who spoke in the regional national dialogue convention, and the people who spoke in the national dialogue conference in Juba. We are just presenting their position to so that they are implemented. So we are not for any position, not even Rajab, and not even Abraham Awolit, not even Governor Kwela Gwel, or not even myself. All of us and other members, by the way, we have we have a very huge membership, and we have no interest of partaking in any political office in the next interim government. But we can participate in the implementation of the agreement. For example, the constitution making process. Of course, we will participate in some of these other activities that we feel can take us into peaceful South Sudan and democratic country.
So, can you explain more to South Sudanese who are listening to you right now, Wani Michael, about the constitution making? What kind of constitution do you guys want to see? Do you guys want a new constitution, or what do you guys want? And what if the government is refusing not to make a new constitution? So explain to us, what kind of constitution do you guys want?
One, we believe that we want a constitution that is led by the people and owned by the people. That is our first underlining principle as PCCA, that the constitution must be the people's constitution and must speak to the issues, to the needs of our people, and the people must be able to lead the process of the constitution making process. However, we have very strong opposition to the current Constitution Making Process Act and the Constitution Making Process under Chapter 6 of the Revitalized Agreement. As PCCA, we feel that the current context of the Constitution Making process is deeply politicized, that you have 55% representation of the parties in the National Constitution Review Commission, and you have 45 representation of stakeholders in the NCRC. And also, even with the 55, which is allocated to the parties, it also subjected to the power sharing in the revitalized agreement. That then gives the SPLM, the SPLM or the IT Gono, a biggest number in the National Constitution Review Commission, as opposed to the stakeholders. And you may recall that the National Constitution Review Commission started work since 2012. And up to today, there are very few milestones that they can be associated with. I remember between 2012 and 2013, the NCRC got support from the USID through IFES and NDI, and were able to do public consultation, and they reach out to some areas in South Sudan. So for us, we believe that you need to have an independent body, independent hybrid lean body that should be given the task to write the constitution, to oversee the writing of the constitution. We understand that the Constitution Making Process Act created something called the CDC, the Constitution Drafting Committee. We believe that the Constitution Drafting Committee picks instructions from the NCRC. So for us, our proposal is that you have to collapse the two, the CDC and NCRC, and you have an independent body that writes the constitution, so that it is not deeply politicized. Although I know constitution making process is a political process, but we don't want it to be deeply politicized. That's why I added the word deeply politicized. It must be the people's process. So we are proposing that you have to collapse the two, and you only have one NCRC, which is lean. And our proposal is that you need not more than 15 members. And let me explain this. The Kenyan constitution, and Kenya is one of the celebrated democracy now in the region. The Kenyan constitution was written by 9 hybrid independent panel of experts. They had, from the 9, there were 3 who were non-Kenyans, and they wrote the Kenyan constitution, the 2010 constitution. In another dispensation, constitutional dispensation, I think like Benin or Malawi, they had even foreigners, South Africans, who went and wrote their constitution. And I could give a good example. One of the mechanisms of the agreement that implemented the activities 100% is a National Constitution Amendment Committee, where I also sat for some time before I was succeeded by David. And it is the only mechanism in the agreement that implemented the activities 100%. And do you know why? It's because we were 15 members. From the 15 members, 2 of them were non-South Sudanese. Our chairperson or our chairman was a Kenyan, a senior counsel or lawyer from Kenya. The deputy was a Sudanese, and then 13 of us were South Sudanese. And it was easy for partners, for donors to be able to fund us through UNDP and RGMEC for us to be able to deliver. So if you relegate the development partners to the CDC, you risk them supporting the process. So, and also we are saying hybrid is important, because one of the things that we learned from the Kenyan constitution making process experience and another constitution making process is that there are controversial constitutional matters that you need somebody who is an South Sudanese to spearhead the discussions. For example, we agree that we are going to go for federal system of government, but also we should not bury our heads on the sand that there are no communities in South Sudan who have very strong resentment to federalism. So if, for example, you have Wani Michael in the commission and I'm supposed to go and make consultation on the system of federalism to that particular community, they will look at my name and there is a belief that the region where I come from have very strong attachment to federalism, so people may not be able to listen. Issues of land, for example, these are very controversial issues. So we say there you might need a non-South Sudanese some time to lead some of this conversation, so that the person is not fine-tuned to be seen like the person has already taken side. So for us, we have a proposal that you disband, you restructure the current NCRC and you create an independent body that will be able to oversee and write the constitution making process. Secondly, we are also proposing that the Nairobi process can be able to deliver the first constitutional text. Constitutional making process is a national dialogue. And we believe that South Sudan has enough literatures for us to be able to write the constitution. And I want to mention some of the documents that we have made reference to. Number one, you have the 1972 Addis Ababa Agreement, which is a very important document if you're writing a constitution, because it provided a background on how the struggle for South Sudan started. You have you have the comprehensive peace agreement. You have the Juba agreement. I think the one of 1947 or 46. You have the interim constitution. You have the transitional constitution. You have the revitalized agreement. You have the Arusha agreement. You have the African Union Charter and the 2663 agenda. You have the East Africa Community Treaty and other documents of the East Africa, and others, the international human rights documents, conventions or treaties. But most importantly, for us, we believe that the national dialogue, which we spent 4 years, and I don't think there's any other process in South Sudan that has been very consultative like the national dialogue, where we spent 4 years doing national dialogue across the country, in the refugee camps, and even in the diaspora. And if you look at the issues in the national dialogue, all the constitutional issues that people are talking about have been discussed in the national dialogue, from the grassroots out to the national conference. So, and also the national dialogue, we use public funds. These were not individual money. So we believe that the resolutions of the national dialogue can form one of the key and fundamental and essential document in writing the constitution. So we believe that we can draft a constitution based on these documents, but making a elaborate reference to the national dialogue. And then you go with this document and consult people with, when you have a draft. It is good to have a draft and you consult people based on this draft, because people have spoken during the national dialogue. You may not agree with them, you may agree with them, but they have spoken on issues of economy, on issues of governance, issues of security, and all other issues of land, issues of social cohesion, issues of reconciliation, justice. All these issues are discussed in the national dialogue, and they can be able to form. Then you have a constitutional text, then you have a first constitutional conference, which for us, we say it can happen in Nairobi, and then thereafter you go with this document to Juba, and you can be able to consult Juba and South Sudan, sorry. You take this document to South Sudan and consult the people with this document, the first draft, people input on this document, and the independent body, which is not managed by any other political party or political entity, then can be able to incorporate these inputs from the people. Thereafter, we shall have then the second constitutional conference, which is to be in Juba. And in this conference is where now people will validate what they have incorporated into the first draft. And in our considered opinion, you change the second National Constitutional Conference into a constituency assembly, because there is a debate that the current parliament is not, they are not elected members of parliament, so you risk them tampering with the document. So we are saying you transform the National Constitutional Conference into a constituency assembly, and then once they pass the constitutional text, the second constitutional text draft, then you put it that text to a referendum. The whole document is subjected to a referendum where people will either accept or reject it, and then the president will sign. And for us, in our opinion, is that once it is been approved by the people through the referendum, there is nothing to change. The president will sign it, and the day the president signed that, our permanent constitution, it then becomes the constitutional day for South Sudan. So this our opinion, that we believe we can be able to move the constitution making process forward.
Thank you very much, Wani Michael, for your explanation. Answer that question. My next question, Wani, some of South Sudanese opposition that are not a part of Nairobi peace talk, they are complaining that the Nairobi peace talk is not inclusive enough. So, what is your take on this? Is it Nairobi peace talk is inclusive? That number one. Number two, the faction of Soma, General Thomas Shirilo, and also Ambassador Emmanuel Jawin, and the other, they refused to join the peace talk in Nairobi. And their concern is that the Nairobi is not safe enough for opposition. So what is your take on this? Are you guys are not safe there? Your security is in risk? And what is your response to Tomo Chirilo and Ambassador Emmanuel, their position that they are not going to the Nairobi talk? And also, if there is a chance for them to join the peace talk before the peace agreement reach? Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have asked a very important question, and I want to address my mind to this particular question of inclusivity and the issues of the other members of SOMA, specifically NAS, led by General Thomas Cirillo, and Ambassador Emmanuel Ajajawin. It is in our considerate opinion that we need to have an inclusive process. And the international partners and the region, and even South Sudanese, are telling us that this must be the last peace process for South Sudan. The belief is that we don't need to be having peace talks. We should be talking about elections, for example. We should be talking about development in the country and how we deliver services to the people, because our people want services to be delivered to them. They need clean water, they need better schools, they need better medical services. They should be able to put food on the table, and they need to be healthy. So we deeply share these concerns with them. We have raised this issue with the mediation, and we have also raised this issue with the other partners, international regional partners, that there is need to engage the other holdout group who are not part of the Tumene initiative to be able to bring them on board so that they become part of the process. We were also reliably informed that there was a high-level engagement between the Kenyan government and General Thomas Cirillo in terms of discussing those details on how he can be able to participate in the Tumeine initiative, specifically the concerns that were raised by NAS or the NAS leader and other SOMA members, the question of security, the question of safety, and other issues that were raised by NAS. We were reliably informed that the Kenyan government committed to do everything possible to be able to secure the SOMA members, General Thomas and his team, once they come to these talks. However, they still strongly believe that the process should have remained in Rome, as opposed to the process being shifted to Kenya. And I think also there is a skepticism in terms of the person who initiated the process. There's a strong resentment that anything that is initiated by the president is not genuine. But I also strongly feel that dialogue is the only way. If we're able to dialogue among ourselves to be able to agree. So we have not given up because we believe and we know that we need a total peace and relative peace in South Sudan. So the pursuit to continue reaching out to General Thomas and the other Soma members is in place, and there are still discussions ongoing in terms of how they can be able to participate in this process. But I strongly also call on them and also call on the mediation that there is need for General Thomas and his group to be able to participate. And those details of the issues that were raised by them in private and in public, I think there are better ways that can be resolved. To me, the question of interest, neutrality, you will never find any person who is mediating without any interest. Everybody has their own interest, and of course we need to recognize that you need the region to participate in these talks. Even if you sign an agreement in Rome, you still need this region because they must become grantors. Because Rome is very far. Rome is not, it's so many miles away from Juba. So you still need Uganda, you still need Kenya, you still need Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the IGAD countries and other neighboring countries to be able to become grantors, so that if anything happens, they can be able to rush. Because even if you sign the agreement in Rome, you sign the agreement in London, or you sign the agreement in Nairobi, it is going to be implemented in Juba. So we need to build trust and confidence among ourselves. But also, we are also saying that the NAS need to reconsider the decision, because there are people who have suffered, and we have to be able to find a way of how to dialogue on these issues, and ensure that our people have uh, relative peace. So it is up to NAS, and they have already made that decision. But we believe that they can still be pursued to be able to join the process or another process that they deem to be inclusive to them. But I just wanted to put it on the record that invitations were sent to them. I think engagement was also done in different high levels. Unfortunately, they had their concerns, and they felt that their concerns were not addressed, and they could not be able to participate in this process. Our security here is okay. I have stayed here for some time now. I have not heard of any serious security concerns. The Kenyan government has been taking care of us, and they have taken our security very serious. So I can assert to the fact that I have not heard of any serious security concerns that emanate from the delegates who have been residing or have been in the talks. So I will still join the rest of the South Sudanese that it is important that NAS come to the table, and they negotiate with the government of the day, and the issues are resolved, and we have an inclusive process. And our hope is that they can be able to join the Tumaini initiative, so that our people will have a lasting peace.
Thank you, Wani. My last question, so I can open a question to the audience who are watching you right now in Facebook, YouTube, and Clubhouse. So my last question is about election. So I heard the talk is going on in Nairobi, and the election is coming up in December. What is your opinion on election? Will the election take place in December?
Even the people who are calling for election in December, they know deep inside their heart there will be no election in December. They are just, they are just trying to do what we call curtain raising. In music, before the main artists come to perform, there are those artists who first come to curtain raise. So the endorsement that you hear that people talk about is just a curtain raising appetite for people, or people just want to misuse public funds, or people just wanted to loot public funds, to me, because they know for a fact that it is absolutely difficult to conduct elections in December, because so many things are not yet put in place. That is why all focus is in this Tumaini initiative. And remember, the United Nations and African Union and IGAD, they came up with the 10-point program. The 10 points, what they believe that must be implemented so that some sort of election can happen. But if you look at the 10 issues that the United Nations identified, they were not implemented. Recently, the RJMA came out publicly and said, based on the facts on the ground, it is difficult to organize election in December 2024. So the question of the December election, election in December, is a non-issue now. That is why you see the Artigono have taken the Tumene initiative very serious, because they believe this is the only legitimate process that can provide legitimacy. However, for us, we are saying the Tumene initiatives will not be used just for extension. Remember, they had the roadmap that they even failed to implement their own roadmap. Leave the agreement that they say it has been imposed on them. Because first of all, the Electoral Commission, in our considered opinion as PCCA, the current National Election Commission is not independent. It is not impartial. It is deeply politicized, so it cannot deliver fair, free, and credible elections, because the commissioners represent political parties. They are not independent. There are people who are active members of SPLM, SPLM, IO, SOA, and other parties who formed the part of the commission. Also, recently, remember, the Electoral Commission chairperson appointed the High Committee in the states. And the information that we got, they were nominated by the parties. But the law says they must be independent. They need to be recruited in a very transparent, process. But you are having electoral officers appointed based on their party affiliations. So how transparent and impartial will I be if, for example, I'm a member of the SPLM and I'm the chairperson of Lake State, Electoral Commission? I have to defend my party. So you need to get somebody who is impartial, who does not have any non-political color. Although we know everybody has a political color, but you not have an active political affiliation. You don't have the constitution, and this is a fact. Our current constitution talk about 5 vice presidents. So I've been asking this question: are you going to have 5 running mates as a candidate? The constitution currently says MPs are appointed by the president. Are you going to have appointed MPs? So you need a constitution that talks about issues of elections. Lastly, issues of security sector. You see, we must reform our security. I keep saying is that what is election? Election is saying Kir must stay. For those who will be campaigning for the president, like the endorsement, their slogan is Kir must stay. And those who will be contesting against Kir, what are they going to say? They will say Kir must go because they wanted Kir's seat. But now, for you to say that in South Sudan or in Juba, it is treason. You will be picked and you'll be taken somewhere. But that is what election is. Election it means you have President Kir who wants his seat. So those who support him will say Kir must go. And those who say you have done your part, it is time for you to go home and rest, they will say Kir must go. But you can't say that. So we said there must be political and civil space open. The ground must be very competitive for people to be able to compete. That's required a robust, strategic, comprehensive security sector reform. So we believe that none of the indicators mentioned by the UN, by the United Nations, has been fulfilled for us to say there is an election. And lastly, elections are done by voters. Who is going to vote? We don't have a voter registry. They are yet to register voters. You are yet to verify the voters, and it's a very long, tedious process. So it is absolutely difficult to conduct election in December. That's why we are saying there is need to refocus ourselves in implementing those activities that can take us into election. So as PCCA, our position has never changed that you first need to fulfill the fundamental issues that needed to be done for us to conduct election. If those things are not done, you cannot have election, because election is a process. It's not an event that happened overnight.
But December, you know that December the RCs will come to an end. Remember when they extend RCs for a couple of years? Now December the RCs will expire. So what do you see they will do?
No,
Yeah.
what we are proposing is that the RRCs come to an end on the 20th of February 2025, and then you have a new interim period, which I said earlier will be determined by the number of activities. And these activities are going to be very specific. For example, I can mention some of them to you. One, constitution making process. Second, security sector reform. Third, elections. All the activities and the election, the constitution of the National Electoral Commission, opening of political and civil space, and all these issues. So for us, we're saying the next interim period must focus entirely on the processes that lead us into election. Whether if it is 6 months, it is 12 months, the focus must be to implement those activities that can lead us into elections.
Thank you. There's a question coming from YouTube, from Mayan Joseph. Mayan Joseph is asking you that I will direct to go to my question. If the government and holdout group sign a peace agreement or reach the point of agreement, will the interim period be extended, or shall they come for election 2034? That's a question from Mayan Joseph in YouTube. Go ahead, answer that question.
So, the question of interim period, because we are faced with this challenge that one is abundantly clear that you cannot have elections. You cannot have elections in 2024. Now you're only left with two aspects of having an interim period. So for us, we are saying the next interim period must be a very short period and must be determined by the activities of the next interim government. And those activities must focus specifically on activities that lead us into elections, which I mentioned earlier on. And I don't think we'll reach to 2030. I don't think so. I believe that before 2030, 34, as has proposed, there will be elections. We believe that if we were able to have the political will and we have provided a lot of recommendation in terms of implementation mechanisms of the agreement that will be signed here in the Tumene, so that everybody puts their hands together to be able to implement that particular agreement. And I can speak to the fact that I don't think election will be conducted in 2034, but I'm very optimistic that election will be conducted within the shortest period of time. But that period is not December 2024.
Thank you. There's a question coming from Niall Joseph. Niall Joseph, you say that the Daman peace process is a deal between Soma and the government, because a lot of oppositions are not including, we talked about this before, in the peace. If I am not wrong, a lot of stakeholders apply in the initiative process, but they were not invited. Why? If the peace is to bring a peace in South Sudan, why inclusive other opposition? So you already talked about that before. Just if you have something.
Yeah, I just want to mention something. Want to mention something, that I am aware that there are efforts to bring in other opposition groups who are not currently in the Tumene initiative, including General Gatwich. Yeah, so other parties have been involved, or there are processes or there are things being done for them to be able to participate in this process. So yes, they have opened up doors for other opposition parties to be able to participate in this process.
Okay, thank you. Let me go back to the clubhouse. Clubhouse, everybody have a question, raise your hand. There's a question that somebody posed on the comment section clubhouse. He or she saying that, but how can the Nairobi be considered as a peace talk when none of you are fighting the government? When did you guys take up arms against Kir? So in other words, he's talking about like you PCA and civil society, you guys don't have gun, you are not fighting. But and this is what I'm seeing in the peace talk. Okay, so when I'm seeing there is the favor more those of General Stephen Boy, General Paul Malonga or General Pakanamum, they favor more than you guys. So that's what that question is leading to. For those people who are all arms, what are those? So go ahead and answer his question. Thank you.
Yeah. First of all, I agree with those who say that in South Sudan, for it to be taken serious by the government, you must speak arms against them. But there is one thing that we need to consider is that there is an aspect of non-violence that the government also fears so much. You may recall that when we called for protest in 2021, in August 30th, people saw the tanks that were brought on the road, the deployment of police and military on the road, on people who want to peacefully protest without carrying any guns or weapons. You have heard the Honorable Michael McQuay make a public pronouncement that they don't have tear gas in South Sudan. We have light bullets. So the government of the day, in most cases, fears the power of the people, and that's why when protest was called, they had to deploy all mercenaries, all arsenals of weapons to scare off the people not to come and protest. However, we need to move away from the narrative that for you to only have grievances with the government, you must pick arms. For example, the members of the PCCA, we do not pick any arms against the government, but we are charged with treason. I have been charged with treason. Abraham Awole, Chiraja Mohandis, Jame David Kolok, and Governor Kwela Kwel, who was acquitted. Yeah. So the narrative that for you to be taken serious, you must pick arms. It's something that is also we need to diffuse that. That's why we have not picked arms against anybody, and we will never ever pick arms against anybody. We believe in non-violence movement. So we are on the table to present the views, the aspirations, the issues, the needs, the suffering of our people. We are here to defend the rights of our people and to ensure that the issues that our people resonate with, they're able and they are incorporated into the final agreement. That's why we're here. That's why I said from the beginning, we as PCCA have no interest in any political position in this process.
Thank you very much. Now I have three gentlemen here in Clubhouse. They come up to ask a question. The next on the line to ask question. Well, let me welcome Taj and Uncle Lado, and also General Adiang. Taj, you are next online. Go ahead and ask your question, please.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to ask you maybe 3 or 4 questions here.
Can you just make it 2? Because we have a lot of people.
Yeah, because it's on my head, so I cannot omit to ask it because I was looking for this guy so that I can ask the question too. So
okay, go ahead.
Is it okay?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Wani Michael, for coming in to the Lexington media and then so brief us here. In one of your Twitter, when Michael McQueen make a press conference and then you just come out and tweet out that that conspiracy, insulation, and ignorance on the voice of the people is very dangerous move. They decide to sideline and then ignore the voice of the people. Why do you make that comment? Is it Michael Makui as sideline the stakeholders down there in the peace talks or what? And the second thing is, on your submission here, you said you guys talk of federal system that when the peace is signed, it can be implemented right away. Do you mean the federal system can be implemented before the starting of the government, when the government is to start, then, like, for example, today, if you sign the peace agreement, so, for example, we are going to form the government tomorrow, then it start with the federal system or what? Because this is what is the demand of people, and then he said it's going to start right away. And then the third thing is, you guys demand that, for example, PCCA. I read maybe Abraham already said, and then you guys say you are going to go according to national dialogue. And already the national dialogue, the prison doesn't want national dialogue. So if you guys today brought this national dialogue up, is it the prison is not going to throw this thing out? Because like you guys said, the army should go to the barracks, everything should go to the barracks. And the prison doesn't want this one because the prison want to go on the militia so that it can continue. Is it real? The prison is going to agree, the government is going to agree on this. They say the tiger is going to go to the barrack, the security is going to be reformed. Is it the government is going to agree really? And then the fourth thing is, you guys said, yeah, PCC, you don't want any positions. You don't think that in future this PCCA is going to turn to the political party so that also you get your rights, because you guys have been fighting for a long time, and then because everybody is wanting to get a position. You mean to say your PCCA is not going to turn to the party? And then the last one is, you said you are asking those of Thomas Rilo and the other part to join the peace agreement. Already the peace agreement is coming to the end to be signed. How do you call these guys to come and join the peace agreement? They already made food. So that what are they going to do? They are going to only to sign, or you guys are going to open the negotiation again? Thank you.
Thank you, Taj. Yeah, go ahead, Wani, to answer this question.
Yeah, let me start with this last question about the signing. There is no signing yet. The only document that we signed was a declaration of commitment. And in fact, the real negotiations started, I think, some weeks back. And is a long process. So we still want to encourage General Thomas to join the talks, because if he joins the talks, his ideas can be incorporated into the current process, because people are still negotiating, and negotiation is a process. So if he joined, I'm not saying he's joined and signed the agreement. What I'm saying is that he joined the peace process. He joined, his ideas can be incorporated into the document. His ideas can be, the government can either have a buy-in or other opposition leaders. So what we are basically saying that for us to have a robust and inclusive peace and sustainable peace in South Sudan, there is need to ensure that those all-out groups who are not apparently in Nairobi, they are persuaded, and also a compromise is reached between both NAS or SOMA, the other SOMA, and the mediators or the Republic of Kenya and other grantors, so that the issues that Thomas Cirillo raised and his group are resolved and Thomas is able to participate. So I do not think, although I don't speak for the mediation, but I do not think that they will want Thomas to come and sign the document, because you cannot sign on something that you have not participated in. So we are saying Thomas will come and be able to put his ideas, his aspirations, what he strongly feel that can be very, very good and will improve the life of our people. So all what we are saying is that you cannot end violence by violence. You can only end violence through dialogue. Whatsoever framework, whatsoever processes, we are saying there is need to involve Thomas on the table, and Thomas need to participate in any peace process. And since the current peace process that have both regional and international recognition and backing is the Tumaini initiative, so we are saying this is the current peace process on South Sudan, because even the Sentigidio are also here. They are the co-mediators in the Tumaini initiative. Um, on the question of PCCA turning as a political party, apparently at the moment, PCCA is a civil right, non-violent democracy movement. We are not yet a political party, and I cannot predict how the future will be, but I know for a fact at the moment that that is our definition as an institution. We are a civil right, non-violent democracy movement. On the national dialogue, yes, we feel that these are the voices of the people, whether you agree or you disagree with them. People have spoken, so you must respect the will of the people, because sovereignty belongs to the people, and this we stated even in the declaration of commitment that was signed recently by the parties and stakeholders. And if you look at that document, the declaration of commitment, it reconfirmed that the people of South Sudan has the sovereign power. So if the people have exercised their sovereign power and have voiced their issues and their concern through the national dialogue, I do not think that you can ignore their voices because there is an article, and without fear of contradiction, the problem is because there is an article in the national dialogue which says that the President Salva Kiir and Dr. Riek Machar should not participate in any elections. But beside that, there are so many recommendations and so many proposals in the national dialogue beside that. So you cannot say you will not implement the national dialogue because people say they do not want you. At least you have had people boldly and openly telling you that we do not want you. What about those who say it is silently? So for us, we are here saying the national dialogue resolution must form basis for writing the new constitution, because people have spoken. As I said, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, but they have that is their voice, and we must respect, because sovereignty of South Sudan belongs to the people. On the issues of federalism, our proposal, our position as PCCA is that you don't need to wait for the permanent constitution making process to start for you to implement federalism. You need to start implementing federalism immediately after the signing of the agreement. We need to start inculcating in the minds of our people that we are already in a federal system of government. So that's why we are saying the agreement even should emphasize that federal system or federation or federalism must start immediately after the signing of the agreement. And this is our position. Not only our position, but that was the position of the national dialogue, that you must start implementing activities or section on federalism immediately. You don't need to wait for the constitution making process. On issues of isolation, stakeholders, and I want to reconfirm, yes, there were concerns to that effect. However, this was sorted out, and I can confirm to you that the stakeholders are fully participating and contributing to the documents that have been presented by the mediation. So we are actively participating. In fact, today the stakeholders had a consultation with the mediation and other partners in terms of the positions that they hold on different issues. So apparently the stakeholders are participating. But remember, this is a mediation process. So there are instances where it will be the parties talking to the parties among themselves, and there are instances where the parties will be talking to the stakeholders, and there are instances whereby all of us, including the mediators, are speaking to each other. Remember, I mentioned that the document or the protocol on trust and confidence building was facilitated and done by South Sudanese. It was only us. The chief mediator, General Lazarus Zimbeo, and his team were not in attendance for 5 days, and were able to agree on those issues of trust and confidence building. So I just want to reconfirm that the stakeholders are actively participating in the process and already presenting different positions on those issues. On the issue of the army, yes, there is a proposal that you need to reconstitute and restructure the Tiger division by taking them back to the SSPDF command, and they be under the SSPDF, and ensure that you create the VIP protection unit, which is under the Ministry of Interior, which is done by so many countries, where the VIPs, including the president, they are protected by a well-trained VIP police who are under the under the Ministry of Interior. You don't need the military to be protecting the president in the country. The military are meant to defend the territorial and the borders of South Sudan. So our proposal is that the current Tiger Battalion are taken back to be under the command of SSPDF, and you create a VIP protection unit within the Ministry of Interior, which is basically the police to protect the president and other senior government officials. I hope I have answered him.
Thank you. Yeah, let me move to next. Uncle Lado, you are next on line. Go ahead, ask your question. Uncle Lado, we cannot hear you. Check your connection. I see your microphone is open, but we cannot hear you. Uncle Lado, okay. Okay, while Lado is fixing, okay. Are you back? Still, we cannot hear you. Check your network, and then when it all right, so we cannot hear you. So meanwhile, we're waiting for you to fix your network. Adiang, you're already on puzzle.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why one question only to the guest, Wani Michael? Thank you for coming and update us. One question is, the SPLMIO, leader of SPLMIO, came out, and we were discussing yesterday here, for testing that the access and been undermined by talking this peace talk you guys on it. I disagree, but what about your position? Because this is two different agreements. But now you make it like you guys will undermine his agreement. So what do you guys think about that? That is the only thing you can answer. Thank you.
Thank you, General Adiang. So Wani, you write those questions down. Uncle Lado, are you ready to open your mic now?
Yes, I don't know if you hear me. Right
yeah, now we can hear you. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. So, I'm just for particular madi to one best for Rosas Wani to you to the South Sudan Eagle Media. أنا عندي أسئلة يعني تقريبا متغير مع بعض. يعني السؤال الأول إنه مستر واني أنتم عارفين إنه الحكومة في جنوب السودان ما عنده إرادة سياسية لتنفيذ اتفاقيات السلام في جنوب السودان أو السلام في جنوب السودان. سؤال: ما هي الضمانات بالنسبة لكم كمنظمة بتاع civil society اللي انتم بتشوفوا ما هي الضمانات الحكومة ده هينفذوا هذا الاتفاقية الماشية في نيروبي حاليا؟ ده سؤال نمرة واحد. سؤال نمرة اثنين: انه هل اذا تم اتفاقية في نيروبي هل هتمشي في جنوب السودان قبل ينفذ في بعض من البنود في الاتفاقية على أساس مثل هيكلة الجيش؟ هل هتمشي في جنوب السودان مثل ما حصل لريال مشار مشى في جنوب السودان وخطه في حوض عريس ولا في حراسة بدون ما تنفيذ هذا الاتفاقية؟ يوصل فالج مشى هناك وقرصوا هناك. طيب انتم هتمشي قبل ما يتنفذ في بعض من البنود ولا تنتظر برا لحد ما يتنفذ بعض من البنود الاساسيه بعد تمشي المجموع الاتفاقيه يمشي في جوبا. نمره 3 واخر واحد ما فرق الفرق شنو بين الاتفاقيه بتاع 2015 و16 و2018 فرق شنو في هذا الاتفاقيه بين الاتفاقيه دي واتفاقيتين السابقه كرما نفذ. هل الايجاد هذا المره هيجيب ولا ايجاد هيجيب تنفيذ هذا الاتفاقيه؟ لانه نشوف انه الحكومه اصلا ما قادر يعني ادينا فرق ما الفرق ضمانات شنو ضمانات دوليه اقليميه بين تقلي الايجاد في تنفيذ هذا الاتفاقيات بتاع 2015 16 و18. شكرا.
شكرا أكلادو. يا تفضل واني.
Yeah, I'm not good at Arabic, but I think I understood the questions he was asking. I think some of the questions he's asking resonate around implementation. Yes, the issue why we feel you need to interrogate the RRCs deeply is because it has not been implemented. Somebody say that we have good agreement, we have a very good agreement, we have very good laws, but the problem is implementation. When it comes to implementation, we are very, very poor about it. So we have been able to put our heads together to look at that the Tumene initiative must be able to come up with an agreement which is implementable. And implementable means you must be able to come up with a very robust and critical aspect of implementation, the aspect of monitoring and the aspect of enforcement. And how do you enforce and how do you monitor the agreement? Because the current problem with the RRCs, it is only monitoring but no enforcement. So we have been able to grapple around and see proposing areas where we feel there is need for enforcement as opposed to just monitoring like what RJMEC is doing now. They just monitor the implementation of the agreement, but we needed another institutional body that can be able to enforce. And there are a number of proposals in terms of how you work around with that. So we are here to ensure that we have an agreement which is implementable. You don't need to have an agreement that you've absolutely failed to implement. The issue, what is different between this process and the RRCs? And I think it's a question that keeps coming every time and then, even with from South Sudanese or even non-South Sudanese, including the international partners. For us, in our considered opinion, is that the only difference that this process can deliver is a constitutional agreement. That this process must lead into the writing of a new constitution, stabilizing our security, and implementing activities that can lead us into elections, and the end product is election. That to us should be the difference between this process and the other access. And also by ensuring that you have very specific activities that the government must be able to implement beside other sovereign activities that the government need to do or the government of the day. So we feel that this is also a different process. Also provide us an opportunity to interrogate why the peace agreement has not been implemented for all these years, for over 6 years. So once you interrogate and find out the reason why this agreement wasn't implemented, it will be easy then for you to be able to provide mechanisms that can lead into the implementation of the agreement. The issue of people being detained in Juba, Dr. Riak and the others that he mentioned, we raise this concern and we feel that the Constitution provides for freedom of movement, and that means the state should be able to provide protection. That's why you have grantors. And that's why we are proposing grantors to the agreement. People then will be able to come in between if there is a problem in terms of violation of these fundamental rights. But remember, in the Declaration of Commitment, we also mentioned that those fundamental freedoms and rights must be guaranteed and must be protected by the state. So we don't see any reason why somebody will be detained in Juba and is not allowed to move, because that is a violation of the person's constitutional right of freedom of movement. And that is why we had the trust and confidence building, which was specifically for us South Sudanese, and we're able to raise issues with the government delegation that you want us to go to Juba, but there is no freedom in Juba. People are not allowed to speak the way they want to speak. So for us to be able to build trust in you, for example, there are things that you ought to do as a government to guarantee people that indeed you value those fundamental freedoms and right. So we are also ensuring that the issues that are enshrined in the Bill of Rights and international human rights instruments must be protected by the state, and the government of the day must commit to them. The last question from Angolado on the issue of the RRCs, on the message or the public statement from Dr. Riek Machar. I answered it earlier on. I said, first of all, I recognize his concern. I also recognize that he's one of the key stakeholders or key party or principle to the RRCs. But I have a contrary opinion that the government delegation, which is here, the Article delegation here, comprised of all the parties who signed the RSS. They are all here in Nairobi. In fact, Dr. Riak Party, SPMIO, has 3 delegates. Apparently, one of them is hospitalized, unfortunately, and we wish him a quick recovery. But he has 2 active members, senior leaders of the SPLM, who sit on the table to negotiate. And as far as I know, the discussions has always been from day one is looking at areas where you have to strengthen the RSS. And there's no way you can strengthen the RSS without unpacking the RSS. So we are not writing a new agreement as such, but we are saying the agreement, the RSS has failed. So then how do you make it work? Because only 15% of the RSS activities have been implemented for the last 6 years. So you want to tie our hands on something that is not working, So we have to look at the practical aspect. And as I said, we are not saying the whole content of the agreement of the RSS is bad. In fact, they have good proposal, but we are saying unpack the agreement, and then we need to carry things that we feel that can lead us into elections. Uh, so I think he was either misinformed about what was happening here, or he wants to protect certain interests that he has. And people are entering now into maybe very serious discussion according to what maybe he got, the information he got. So he has to protect certain interests. But for us, we shall not sign an agreement that is not implementable. We needed an agreement that we are able to hold ourselves accountable. So as PCCA, we have made it publicly clear that we want something which is implementable. And this narrative that the RSS cannot be open, cannot be unpacked, and then what are we doing in Nairobi? Because at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, whether it become an annex like the roadmap that they did, it has implication to the agreement itself. So we are not here to undermine the RSS, but also we are here to say the RSS has failed for all these years. It has failed, so you cannot tie our ropes, to the grave on something that you have failed to implement by yourselves. We have to be able to fundamentally look at it and see how it can be implemented, but not as a whole, because also we need to recognize that people use the RRCs to extend themselves in power, to keeping themselves in power, that they want to implement the agreement as fully, and time is going, and people want to go for elections. So for us, we believe that the agreement can be unpacked. What is important that can take us into election, we carry it forward. And also, lastly, if that is the argument, as I said, on the 20th of February 2025, the agreement comes to an end, and that means there will be no talk of RSS. We will be talking about a new transitional arrangement, whether within the parameters of RSS or new arrangement, that they will be decided by the parties and stakeholders.
Thank you. I think you didn't answer the question of General Young.
Okay. Can you remind me the question?
General Young, what was your question? The question regarding about you answered earlier when I asked you a question. Is regarding about the letter that Dr. Yak wrote regarding about the peace talk in Nairobi. So, General Young, do you want to repeat it again? Yeah, go ahead.
I think it was noted down. I was asking about current situation, which is leader of IO wrote the letter. This letter, I think, Eagle Media had it. So it was contest that ashes had been undermined by your peace in Nairobi, which is not true. I disagree. But what is your position? And this one, it is all over the media. And sorry, a leader of IO has a week. He's the first vice president. And what he wrote there, it is something, very big. So what you guys can think about this and answer me about that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I thought I had answered him. One, I said, in the Tumene initiative, we have two parties, which is the Artigono, and in the Artigono, you have the parties who signed the RSs, including SPLM-IO. And in the SPLM-IO, no, in the delegation of government, which is the Artigono, there are 3 delegates from SPLM-IO. And one of them, unfortunately, was hospitalized, and he has not been attending plenary or discussions. But there are 2 of them whom I have been seeing them every day here in the negotiation place. So REACT has 2 people who sit on the table, and they know the fact that some of the proposals are to strengthen the RSs. So the discussion that we are here to dismantle the RS is not true. In fact, we are here to strengthen the RSs, and we are here to say that the RSs also the RSs also cannot be used as a tool to tie our hands on it, because I said only 15% of the activities of the RSs has been implemented. So if REACT has concern, legitimate concern, he has the forum through the Artigono to voice those concerns, because there is no IO on the table that I have seen that have separate table. They sit with the government and they speak as with the one voice as government. So also we were wondering, then he's writing a letter, as SPLM-IO, whereas his team is negotiating here with the government. So if he has those concerns, he can be able to raise it within the government. Maybe there are divisions within the government delegation, we don't know, but we feel that the right procedure could have been him expressing these concerns through the government delegation, where he has 3 representatives who sits as delegates nominated by his party. So he is participating in the process through the people that he delegated to represent him. In fact, as I said earlier, we had requested in our trust and confidence building that we could love him to pay us a visit to Nairobi, Dr. Riak, so that they come and interact with us to see whether we are here dismantling the agreement, and also maybe behind that letter, people think we are going to take their positions. But of course, if the positions are not used to advance peace, stability, to advance democracy in South Sudan, why must somebody be holding positions that are not beneficial to the people? So maybe the reason behind that letter is people want to protect their personal interest as opposed to the interest of South Sudan. But for us, we are putting the interest of our people and ensuring that what our people believe is the rightful thing to do, we will put it on the table and we'll continue to advance it.
Thank you, Comrade Wani. The next one online to ask a question. I know some of you want to come up. Round 2 will come up. Wani said that we don't speak Arabic or read Arabic. I know you. The person read your name in Arabic. Open your mic, please.
Okay, thank you.
And say your name. What's your name?
Yes, my name is Ambassador Jamaluddin.
Okay.
Thank you, Madud. You always bring the opportunity to us. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Wani, thank you for your time and thank you for you being with us. And you complaining that your Arabic is not good and we're all South Sudanese, but that's not the case. I'm just joking.
Don't worry, I'm gonna learn Arabic.
Me and Wani, we don't know how to speak Arabic. That Arabic konya bas.
I have Arabic on your corner, yeah. I can that one I can understand.
Ustedes hablan español.
You speak Spanish now?
In Spanish, Bafi Bordo?
Well, we don't speak Spanish in South Sudan. We speak Arabic in Kenya. We can understand you.
Well, greeting to all people up here and those who are listening. And I hope we will get this opportunity to answer the right question, to ask the right question. Most of the question been asked, but Mr. Wani, are we going to have a peace agreement signed in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks? The information already have been leaking out that in the end of the June, we will have a peace agreement. If you want to answer that, it's okay. If it's confidential, you can, zero it out. But are we going to have a peace agreement signed in the end of the month? That's my first question. The second one, who is going to support this peace agreement in terms of financially and resources? And because we all knew our country now is going through a lot financially, but who is going to support this peace agreement financially? As you, Mr. Wani, eyewitness back home in Nairobi. The third one, are they going to have any accommodation for the people who are signing the peace? Are they in terms of whole-out group that will be giving positions within the government? Or are they going to wait until the election is conducted? The last question is, let me know if I'm going fast, Mr. Wani, so you can take a good note. If you're okay, that's fine.
I'm okay.
Okay. The last one is the whole out group will be the part of the election of 2024, or they're gonna wait until election finish. This is the 4 questions that I have. Please, if I didn't put them in a good order, or if I confuse you, let me know. English is our first language, it's not the first language. So if you got it, that's fine. Because I want to be benefited from this answer and the audience as well.
Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, my brother, for asking the question. I appreciate it. On the question of agreement to be signed, yes, I know for a fact that this process may lead into signing of agreement. Already the process is already in an advanced stage. That one I can confirm. There are a number of discussions ongoing. Indoor discussions and negotiations are ongoing between the parties and stakeholders. So yes, our hope is the process called itself Tumaine, which loosely mean hope, is that we will be able to sign an agreement. And I know for a fact that agreement will be signed. We'll reach to an agreement. However, the question of when, it's something that I cannot be able to predict. And I do not want to lie to our people that they will sign agreement within 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 3 days. You never know. Things can happen overnight, and then tomorrow you are told people are signing an agreement. Because a process like this, things can happen very fast, or things can also slow down, depending on the political will from both parties to be able to negotiate. But what I can confirm for a fact is that there will be an agreement signed. The parties will agree and they reach to an agreement. And as I said, already parties are in an advanced stage negotiating on some of those issues, and we believe that they will be able to complete the task as soon as possible. However, we have been emphasizing that this process needs to come to an end as soon as possible, because our people need peace like yesterday. So the more we delay with the process, the more we are losing lives of people, and the more we are losing opportunities to be able to fast track and put our country into the rightful place that it deserves. Our people also to be able to enjoy the dividends of peace. So I agree with you, and I want to tell you that, God willing, of course, other factors remain constant. God willing, we will have an agreement signed, but I cannot confirm when. But I know for a fact that an agreement will be signed through the Tumaini initiative. We already signed the declaration of commitment, and we have already agreed to trust and confidence building document, which will be transformed into a protocol. And there are now discussions on the 4 or 5 thematic areas which form basis for negotiations, and party are negotiating. So I know for a fact that the agreement will be signed. The question of resources is a very important thing, and we are providing proposals in terms of the grantors to the agreement and how they can be able to engage, and also making proposals in terms of some of the mechanisms that can be established that partners can be able to support. But also remember, the first support must come from South Sudan. That's why some of us were raising, and we are still emphasizing this very important issue, that the Artigonos should reconsider the aspect of prioritizing other projects like roads, which is okay, but you cannot prioritize road when there is a serious insecurity in the country. So the first program of government is peace implementation. Then you wonder, if you give road construction 50%, and even that money ends up in the pockets of few individuals. So we are saying, why can we use the little resources that we have and focus on the implementation of the agreement, and also focus on other sovereign functions that the government ought to do, as every government could love to do. Also, there are conversations in terms of how to galvanize support within the international community. When we were here some weeks back, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Norway, Donorejan Minister of Foreign Affairs, came to Nairobi and visited us and spoke to us, and in fact reiterated that Norway and other Troika countries, they are fully behind this process, and they believe this process needs to succeed so that it's able to bring peace and stability and lead people of South Sudan into an election. So there is already an overwhelm. There is already a support coming from the region. Remember, during the launch, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, the President of Kenya, did invite other African countries or presidents who attended the launch. The President of Central African Republic, Zambia, and other countries who attended the launch. And in fact, I think some weeks back also, the President of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, visited Kenya, although it was a state visit. But again, we were reliably informed that the issue of the South Sudan peace was discussed between the two head of states. And also remember, William Ruto had a trip to the United States, and the issue of the peace process was also discussed while he was in the United States. So we believe that the coming in of the international partners will be able to provide support to certain activities like the constitution making process. And we're also proposing activities that the international partners can be able to participate in directly during the transitional period. Yes, so the issue of financing is something that we have taken it very serious, and we ensure that every activity has a costing, and we see who is going to be funding what and where we're going to get this money from. Your last question about accommodation and positions. Of course, every political party wants power. I have never seen a political party that say, I'm a political party and I don't want power. So our belief is that the holdout groups who are political entities, I don't know that they want power. But we are saying the power that they should share should be a lean power. The cake that they should share, it is our cake. It is our power as the people that they have to share. So we are saying you must be able to share the little that you have. The little that we have, they should be able to be comfortable with it and share it. If it is whatever number, they should be able to to genuinely and peacefully share that cake. And if you want to eat a bigger share from the cake, our proposal is that you wait for elections, then you contest, then you're given mandate by the people, and then you decide whom you want to share the cake with. So yes, at the end of the day, of course, you will have to accommodate the whole out groups into the current structures of government, or of course, we are saying you don't need to expand the current structure. Either we are saying you need to reconstitute and reconstruct the current Aratigono so that it becomes a lean government, so that it is able to deliver the activities that can lead us into election and able to deliver services to our people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Badut, thank you, Mr. Wani. This is the last question. I will leave it to you and to the audience. Just be honest with us. What make you optimistic that this peace will be genuine and will be implemented? We ask you as a South Sudanese, and we are here as a citizen. We don't ask you as a politician. What make you optimistic that this peace will be genuine and will address all the root causes of South Sudanese people? Thank you so much, and happy Friday.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead and answer his last question.
The issue of the root causes of the conflict, I agree with you that it's difficult to say this process will deliver genuine peace. I cannot promise you that this process will give genuine peace. What we are doing here is basically to ensure that the issues, the aspirations, and the desire and the needs of our people are taken care of. That's why we have decided as PCCA, we are not here to pursue any political ambition or political career or political position. We believe that the issues that our people have spoken about, including the root causes of the conflict that they have talked about, should be given attention. And also we believe that in the constitution-making process, the aspect of some of the root causes of the conflict can be resolved through the constitution-making process. We also say, for example, issues of reconciliation and truth and healing. It's important that we borrow examples of other countries like South Africa, where the role of the religious leaders and the role of the eminent personalities are very important in bringing us together. And I could give you an example that in the Tumaini initiative, we had the Trust and Confidence Building Conference, which was organized by the religious leaders led by the retired Bishop Emeritus Enoch Tombek, assisted by Professor Pauline Riak and Dr. John Gayo, who are eminent personalities, and in that we were able to talk among ourselves, and in fact it became more of a healing process where people are able to air out their pain, and in fact it was during that time that I was able to learn so many things that happened during the liberation time. Because remember, most of these leaders who are negotiating here, these are the former SPLA commanders who fought for our independence. So we are basically saying that we need a genuine peace in South Sudan, but it's not easy. All of us have to work for it, and we must ensure that the Tumaini Initiative does not deliver for us again another power sharing agreement. It must address the real fundamental issues that is affecting our people and move the country away from peace agreement and transition. We go to a real democratic Federal Republic of South Sudan, where people are able to vote for their president, for their members of parliament, for their governors and other officers, as the constitution may provide for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last question coming from Tuj. Tuj, if you are there, open your mic and ask your question.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
I thank you, but I have two questions. But if any of the question asked was answered during this representation, because I was on and off, I may listen to it during playing the record of the room, and you may skip it. My first question, if I learned now the signing peace deal is matter of when, but it's coming. And we have the access right now is the constitution, is a supreme law in South Sudan. What will be the seat politically in terms of executive legislation in South Sudan where these peace come to an effect? Will it erase or override the current arses agreement which is governing South Sudan? And which one is going to be a supreme constitution in South Sudan? This is the first question. The second question, is there any communication behind closed door to a group of Emmanuel Yawin and Thomas Hero and Alex, hope they refuse to go to Nairobi based on their consent? They think that they are legit. Is there any communication to bring them in so all of us together come home? Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Wani.
Yeah, I earlier on answered the question of Thomas Cirillo and Ambassador Emmanuel Ajajawin, the Soma group, and I indicated that indeed they were officially invited by the Kenyan government and engaging, and they raised concerns. Some of the concerns they made it public. I think they raised the concern of security. They feel that the process needs to continue in Rome as opposed to it being transferred to Kenya. And they raised mostly the issues of security. We were reliably informed that the government of Kenya at the highest level engaged Thomas Cirillo directly and also engaged Thomas through other channels. But he still believed that those issues that he raised were not comprehensively answered for him to be able to trust the process. And another issue that he raised also, which is in the public domain, is the issue of the person initiating the process. They believe that anything that involves President Salva does not yield to genuine peace. So they raises concern in terms of why is he initiating it, and in fact they wanted the talks to continue in Rome. However, people have not given up. We have not given up. As stakeholders, we have continued to raise the issues of engaging Thomas Cirillo and others who are not participating in the Tumaini initiative to be able to participate. And I think also it is upon us, South Sudanese, to be able to reach out to him and ensure that he thinks about the people of South Sudan, and also he reconsider his decision and ensure that the only way to resolve conflict is through dialogue, not through violence. And I think him participating in the talks will add a very serious, will be an added value to the talks. However, you cannot force somebody to come to the negotiating table. Even when we were reliably informed that the Kenyan government had provided everything that they could to be able to secure him and reassure him on some of the protection that we need. But I also say, as my personal opinion,
Bear with me while he's coming back. So this will be the last question, and then we will close down the studio. Let's wait for him a little bit. So while he's coming back. Let me see here. All right, here you come. Okay.
I apologize, my internet.
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead. Yeah, we are
Yeah,
almost
so
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was basically saying there is nothing you can do to force Thomas Cirillo to join the talks. But I think as South Sudanese, we need to reach out to Thomas, General Thomas, and NAS leadership and other holdout group who didn't sign the agreement, so that they can be able to join, whether the Tumene initiative or Cyber initiative. But we feel this is a current opportunity. And when you listen to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Norway, he said this should be the last time South Sudanese are talking about peace. And we agree with them that this should be the last time we are talking about peace agreement. We should be talking about constitution. We should be talking about why are people not having clean water, why are people not having food on the table, how do we reform our economy, how do we give power back to the people, and all those kind of conversations, as opposed to talking about peace agreement. So the doors are still open, I think, for Thomas to be able to participate in the process. And I was also making the point of the grantors that either way you need the region to become grantors to the agreement, because Rome is thousands of miles away from Juba. So if anything happened, you needed a regional grantor. So we still encourage Thomas to also have and to consider his decision, looking at the suffering of our people, that the only way you can resolve this conflict is through dialogue, whether in Rome, whether in Nairobi, whether in the moon, or wherever it will be. Our people have suffered enough, and there's need to dialogue, and we move the country forward, as opposed to every time talking about peace agreement, peace agreement.
Thank you very much. Actually, I have a breaking news that I received, but I will do later regarding Batum Chirilo. There's a breaking news going on in scam right now. So I just received a document. So I will open a show regarding about that. That's a breaking news, but I will not mention for this woman. So thank you, my good brother Wani Michael, for coming to Lake State Media to engage with South Sudanese in social media. This very important show for all of us to learn, to listen to you. This is the one point, and also I would like to thank those South Sudanese who asking you questions, Uncle Lado, and Tash, and also General Young. And the rest of you who are listening, thank you so much. So before I let Wani Michael go, I will give him this last word to put his last remark. And before you put your last remark, put this one with your last remark, Wani, regarding about talk a little bit about the youth, the work of youth, and then you can put your last statement. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm no longer a youth. I exited the space on the 8th of February. So I am no longer a youth. I don't want to extend the age limit to 45 or 40. But as somebody who has worked in the youth space,
What is the youth? What the age group for the youth? Being
35.
youth.
35.
35. Well, we are all. So we are.
Yeah.
We are all.
So I'm no longer a youth. Yeah. I passed that age last year. So what I just wanted to encourage the young people whom I worked very close, and I'll continue working with them for the longest time, is that this country belongs to us, the young people, and to you, the youth. You must own the country. You must participate in peace processes like this. But most importantly, let your voice be heard. Make sure that when the constitution making process conversation is happening, you participate. I love the conversation that's happening in Kenya now. You have the generation Z and the millennials. They have changed the conversation in Kenya in terms of the political matters, social matters. So I want to encourage the youth of South Sudan. It's time for you to own your country. Nobody's going to make it better for you. And you must be able to ensure that your voice is heard and participate in any political processes that is happening in your country. Don't allow people to destroy your country. It is time for you to reclaim your space It is time for you to reclaim your country. Do it in a non-violent means. I encourage you not to accept the invitation to any violence, because violence will not save our country and violence will not move our country forward. My last remark to our people is that peace is the most important thing for us now as a country, so that our people are able to enjoy the dividend. We know the hopes are lost because we know there are families in South Sudan who go without a meal in a day. We know there are families who cannot be able to drink clean water, who are not able to afford medical facilities, and they are going through suffering. They are not enjoying the dividends of the independence that ourselves, our grandparents, and others fought for, our heroes and heroines. It is about time, as the people of South Sudan, we start to own our country, because nobody's going to make it better. Don't think that the political leaders and the leaders will make it better for you if you don't work for it. So I want to encourage our people that it is time that you own your country. You show your patriotism to the country, not to individuals, not to leaders, because that is not patriotism. Patriotism means you protect the Republic of South Sudan by all costs, against even the leaders who may act against the Republic of South Sudan. I want to thank Lake State for inviting me, and I want to thank the colleagues that were able to engage online. And we continue, and we hope we'll continue with this kind of conversation. Let us to continue to pressure the parties. Let us continue to reach out to the parties so that they're able to come to a speedy and very comprehensive conclusion of this process, and it culminate into an implementable agreement. And I thank you so much. May God bless you. May God bless the Republic of South Sudan.
Thank you so much, Brother Wani. Michael, have a wonderful night. Thank you for coming and saying we appreciate you, my brother. Thank you. Take care. Thank you.
You think that back, be on your irga jol, or irga cheat good on more. I chill away, I chill back, you churu ding now. You meet the lake, on your in a room get the on Tiara Okin you, I chill you, you meet the lake, on your in a room get the on Tiara Okin you, I chill you, you meet the lake. Toyina Pia wala rumbe, Kain Ping William. Toyina Will wala Pibor, Kain Ping William. Toyin Juba, Palatori, Ayambio, Kain Ping William. Toyin Benti wala Kwaju, Kaya wow, Kain Ping William. Toyin Malkal wala Pinyaram, Kayin Ping William. Pandile Legisted in Anyam Baiban, Pinyaram, in Anyam Wawadia. Pindile Legisted in Anyam Baiban, Pinyaram, in Anyam Wawadia. In a bull wearing, in bull elected, when a bull really jam, when a bull your pine, and you're the garden, Gagating Polito, a garden of a bog with young Polito, Kubolo Makur, Kumajong Makur, Aberemadit, Kaganyo by Kabino Pinom, and you're the garden, Gagating Polito, a garden of a bog with young Polito, Kubolo Makur, Kumajong Makur, Aberemadit, Kaganyo by Kabino Pinom, Akijadong Ajuer, Abu Jajir, Abu Yellow, Abu Jajir, Abu Yellow, Abu Jajir, Babijan America, Abu Jajir, Babijan China, Abu Jajir, Babijan London, Abu Jajir, Babijan Dubai, Abu Jajir, Abu Yellow. Toyina Pia wala rumbe, Kain Ping William. Toyina Will wala Pibor, Kain Ping William. Toyin Juba, Palatori, Ayambio, Kain Ping William. Atoin Benti wala Atoin Ping William Atoin Malkal wala Pinyaram Atoin Ping William
Thank you. Have a good night.